Hey everyone, and welcome. If you've ever wrangled with data, the biggest headache isn't always the super complex algorithms. It's just trying to find the right data in the first place and then figuring out if you can even trust it. Today, we're going to dive into Databricks Unity Catalog, a tool that's built to fix that exact mess. So let's get into it. Okay, think about it like this. Imagine you have to write a huge research paper. You could walk into a perfectly organized library, right? Every book is in its place, the card catalog is flawless, you find what you need in minutes. Or you could try to find that same book in a giant junkyard with books just piled up everywhere. It's a no-brainer, right? Well, for a lot of companies, their data is basically a junkyard. We're going to see how Unity Catalog comes in and turns that chaos into a beautiful, organized library. So here's the game plan for this explainer. First, we'll really unpack that data chaos problem. Then, we'll meet our hero, the universal librarian. We'll see how it gets everything organized, check out its awesome superpowers, and then, and this is the important part, we'll talk about why knowing this stuff is a massive advantage for you. Let's really lean into this library analogy for a second. Picture a library system that stretches across the entire planet, branches in every city. Now, imagine there's no central catalog. There are no librarians, there's no system for checking books in or out. Some books are fresh off the press, others are a century old and full of mistakes, and you have absolutely no way to tell the difference. That right there is the reality for so many data teams today. It's just chaos. And this chaos, it leads to some super real, super frustrating problems. You're working on a project for class maybe, and you literally can't find the right data set. When you finally track one down, you have no idea if it's the official, up-to-date version or some copy someone made 6 months ago. You've got multiple conflicting versions floating around. And maybe worst of all, nobody has a clue who has access to sensitive stuff like user emails. It's a total minefield. So, how on earth do you fix a mess that big? Well, you hire a brilliant universal librarian. And that is exactly what Unity Catalog is. It's the one single master catalog for your entire data universe, and its whole job is to bring order to that chaos. The phrase you gotta remember here is unified governance. That's the core idea. It means one single place to manage everything. And I mean everything. Your data tables, your AI models, even random files. It is the one place you go to set the rules, to see who's touching what, and to find what's out there no matter where that data actually lives. Okay, so before our librarian can work their magic, the library itself needs to be organized, right? It needs shelves and sections. Unity Catalog does this with a really clean 3-level hierarchy. And you really got to understand this structure because it's how you'll find and talk about all your data. At the very, very top, you have the metastore. This is the big one. This is the container for all the metadata, the data about your data. Usually, you'll just have one of these for each major region you operate in, like one for North America, one for Europe. It's the entire library system itself. Now, inside that metastore, you have catalogs. A catalog is like a single library branch in our huge system. This is where you start to create logical separation. You might have a catalog just for the finance department, another for the marketing team, or maybe one dedicated to a specific student project you're working on. And finally, within each catalog, you have schemas, which you might also hear called databases. These are like the individual aisles in the library. You've got the Q3 reports aisle or the user activity data aisle. This simple structure, catalog.schema.table, gives every single piece of data a clean, predictable address, just like a street address for a house. All right, now our library has 2 types of books. First, you have managed tables. Think of these as the library's own collection. The library buys the book, owns it, and stores it on its shelves. Unity Catalog controls the whole shebang, the files, the storage, everything. This is what you'll use for most new things. But then you have external tables. These are more like a private collection that the library knows about and has a card for in its catalog, but it doesn't actually own the book. You use these when you need to govern data that's already living somewhere else. So for example, say another team uploads their daily files to a specific location, and they have to for their own tools to work. An external table lets you manage and read that data without forcing them to completely change how they work. It's super flexible. Okay, so our library is all set up and organized. Now we get to the really fun part. What can this universal librarian actually do? Let's talk about Unity Catalog's superpowers because this is what makes it a real game changer. Its first superpower is that it's a truly universal card catalog. In the old days, you'd have one system for your data tables, a totally different one for your files, and probably a third separate one for your AI models. It was an absolute mess to keep track of. Unity Catalog just changes the whole game by putting everything, and I mean everything, in one spot. Your normal tables, your unstructured stuff like images and PDFs, your machine learning models. It all lives together in the same catalog. And check this out. It works with open formats like Delta Lake and Iceberg. This is huge because it means they're not locked into one company's proprietary tech. You have freedom. The next superpower is a little something called data lineage. The best way to think about this is being able to see the entire history of a book, from the moment the author wrote the first word, to the publisher who printed it, all the way to every single person who has ever checked it out. It's the book's complete life story. And we're not just talking about tracking tables here. This is column-level lineage, and it's automated. So what does that mean? It means you can click on a single number in a final report and trace its entire journey back through every transformation to every source table it came from. So when a number looks wrong, you don't have to spend days guessing why. You can see exactly what happened. That is an absolute lifesaver for troubleshooting. Superpower number 3 is all about security. Unity Catalog is basically the ultimate all-seeing home monitor. It gives you incredibly precise, fine-grained control over who can see what and who can do what with your data. The motto here is define once, secure everywhere. You set a rule in one place using standard SQL commands, by the way, the kind of stuff you'd learn in any intro database class, and that rule is enforced everywhere. And you can get crazy specific. You can say this group of users can see the customer table, but they are not allowed to see the credit card number column. That level of control is absolutely critical for protecting sensitive data. And the last big superpower is all about sharing. Think of it as an interlibrary loan system, but for data. With features like Delta sharing, you can give another team secure, live access to your data without ever having to make a slow, expensive, and quickly outdated copy of it. They get the real-time info they need, and you stay in complete control. It's the best of both worlds. All right, so we've covered the what and the how. But let's bring this all home and talk about the most important question: why does any of this matter for you as a student who's getting ready to jump into the data world? First off, you'll build better projects, and you'll do it faster. No more wasting weeks trying to figure out if sales_data_final_v2.csv is the right one to use. Second, you can actually collaborate safely and effectively on team projects with clear rules. But here's the biggest thing. This is how modern data-driven companies work. This isn't just some nice-to-have feature. It's the industry standard. Knowing how to govern data makes you infinitely more valuable to an employer. It's a key skill they are actively looking for. So I want to leave you with this final thought. We are all incredibly excited about what's possible with AI. But every single AI model, whether it's a simple prediction or a massive language model, is built on a foundation of data. And if that foundation, that data from the past, is a chaotic, untrustworthy junkyard, then what kind of future are we actually building on top of it? Getting data governance right isn't just about organizing files. It's about building a foundation of trust for everything that comes next.